Join our knowledgeable hosts as they dive into the captivating universe of comic books, movies, TV shows, and pop culture. Get ready for vibrant discussions and a shared enthusiasm for all things superhero and beyond. A comic podcast straight from the panels. This is Beyond the Capes.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Cape podcast. With us today is a very special guest. You might have seen some of his work on Comixology, Hit Girl in Rome, Hailstone. You might have also seen some of his work in All-Star Batman, and we are here today to discuss his new book, Sliced. Welcome to the show, Rafael Scavone. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone.
All right.
Okay.
Well, we're very pleased to have you. It's going to be great. This new book, fantastic, as we'll get into in the second half. As we ask every writer, every comic creator, everyone of all genres, of all the things you could have gotten into, of all the interest you might have had growing up, what drew you to this industry that we all still love to this day, despite it might breaking our heart at times?
Yeah. Wow. It's a quite long journey for me because I used to work, not properly work, but to make comics, crafting comics, when I was a teenager. That was back in 1997, 1995, and then I went to university. I studied history. I work with archaeology, and I work with graphic design. And I travel for different places, but I live in UK for a couple of years, and I live in São Paulo because I'm living south of Brazil in Porto Alegre, but I also used to live in São Paulo. And I was reading comics because I never since my teenage I didn't do comics. What to say professionally. So when I moved back to my hometown, Porto Alegre, where I live today, I re-met my friend from my teens, and he's Rafael Albuquerque. We used to make fanzines, and he was a professional, huge, great artist, and wow. For me, it was quite impressive, and he is super talented. And he said something for me that marked me. He said that I had something not solved in my life of comics, because I love comics. I learned to read with comics, so for me it's natural to think of comics. Yeah. So then I start to shift to comics. First, I start work with him in his studio as his assistant. So I also draw. So I did some layouts, and I start to learn comics properly. Yeah. Comics. This was like almost 10 years ago. So and then I start to write comics, and then I realized that I love to write, especially comics. So yes. I used to write for university and other things, but never like comics, scripting a comic. And for me, that was a breakthrough. So this was my interest in comics. So my first work in comics professionally was for DC. Rafa invited me to write a short story for Wonder Woman, if I recall, as a 75th anniversary special. Was an anthology. We made together a story about the Second World War, and was cool. And then I did a bunch of work in Batman. I also had the honor to adapt Neil Gaiman's Studying Emerald, and it was fantastic. So that's it, and I'm living the dream. As you said, is difficult. It broke my heart a lot of times, but I'm living the dream.
Exactly. No, the comic industry, no matter what, it keeps us coming back. Now it's interesting that you said you drew a little bit and you did some work. Was it hard kind of that first time? Like, obviously, you're working with your friend. Obviously, he's he's his own legend in his own right. And here you are putting artwork down, but then he finally is like, and you're like, let's just write something. Was it a hard transition, or did you find that going to writing comics just came so naturally? Because, I mean, learning to read from them, obviously, you kind of get used to that prose because it taught you to read. So I feel like your writing is probably influenced a lot by learning to read from them.
Yeah, and there's a thing that I think helped me a lot to start writing comics, because since I spent I think 4 or 5 years working as half assistant. So I learned a lot about layouting, and especially about the pacing comics. So this for me it's key, to think about comics and its language. So I think it helped me a lot to transition. So this is I think is the best thing I can. It's my first superpower to start in comics, if I can make this analogy, is like to. But I think there's a lot of as you said, because I learned to read comics. So for me, it's natural. And this, I think, the most important thing, if you want to write comics, is to think about how the artist you make it. Try to imagine, even if you're not an artist, how you solve that page in your mind, visually, because comics is a visual media. So this is the thing, I think. So, okay.
Yeah, no, you're not.
I don't know if I answer your question, but
definitely an answer to it. And you're not the first person to say that. A lot of people, even at the comic book conventions, a lot of them will say, you may not. Who is it? I think Chip Zdarsky said, he's like, I can't draw. It's going to be stick figures, but he's like, I still like even if I'm imagining little stick figures going at it, because I still want to see how, to a degree, it's going to look on the page.
Yeah. You need to imagine it. You need to imagine it, because the paper accepts everything. You can place a lot of panels in a single page, but the artist can do that.
Exactly.
So this is the thing. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. The other thing that's really amazing, and I've told countless people this. A lot of people read comic books, and we all think, America or UK, South America. There has to be a comic book boom because of all the amazing writers and artists that have come from South America and below. Has been just crazy these past few years. It's amazing to watch because the talent is just so well. Has there been like just a giant boom in South America of just getting more comics, or the medium becoming more available?
Yeah. Actually, Brazil has a long tradition of comics since the 19th century. We had some not like because I try to differentiate in Brazil and US, because I think the US has an industry. It's a professional industry. You have a con every weekend. This is the thing. In Brazil, is not the same thing. But we used to have a long tradition with journal standing. That street standing to sell papers, newspapers, and this was really, really popular in Brazil. 40 back to 50 years ago to 10, 12 years ago, and I think this create a mass of readers, and we also have a huge tradition in how can I say, stripes, comic political stripes. This is really, really strong here in Brazil. But in the last years, I think the last 2 decades, a lot of great names, like the twins, Gabriel and Fabio, and Albuquerque, Grandpa. And there's a lot of people. It didn't reach the US and Europe yet. There's a book that just won the biggest prize, literary prize in Brazil, I didn't read yet. I just realized about this book like 2 weeks ago, and it's amazing. I didn't know even it's Brazilian author. So that's the thing. It's because this is the thing about the web and internet now. There's a lot of things going on.
Correct.
Every corner. So, but I'm certain there's a lot of creatives in a lot of places.
Oh yeah,
but yeah,
for sure.
Brazil has a special touch. I think.
Oh no, definitely. I've spoken to a lot of people out of at conventions again, and I said, there's talent everywhere, but I said your next big artist, I have a feeling that they're almost all going to be from South America because it's just there's so much talent, and I think it helps because you guys, anyone from kind of in that area or even overseas in Europe and UK, it seems more than so than in America, and I could be wrong, but like you guys really want to help each other be like the best. And I feel like obviously there's more of a competitive streak here because jobs are kind of a dime a dozen and you really want to fight for that. Where overseas they're, it's a little bit more relaxed to a degree, but you guys really want to lift up like, if you want to lift up kind of your neighbor, not necessarily your competitor, it's a friend that you want to come with you. And I think that definitely has raised the talent level.
I think that there's this aspect too. Yeah. I don't know if you heard about Monica's Gang.
A little bit. Have
you heard about it?
A little bit.
It's really famous in Brazil. It's like a Brazilian Disney. It's huge. It's like a, how can I say? It's like a. Did you remember Get Along?
Yes.
It's but not with animals. It's like people. It's almost the same dynamic, and it's huge, popular. It sells amount like more than Batman, much more like 1 million, 2 million copies. It's huge.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's impressive.
But it's really Brazil. I think there's something going on like in Japan because it's a bit of manga as well.
Yeah,
but
okay.
It's really famous.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay. So writing. I mean, and you've done some, like I said, you've done a lot of work, a lot of incredible work. Now it seems if I had to sum up a lot of your work, I would say you're definitely really good at writing those action and that mystery, almost like that thriller. I don't know if that's what you had set out to write originally, or if it just kind of felt naturally to you. But you do a really good job at it.
Oh, thank you. I love mystery. I love horror, terror. But but I'm trying to experiment like slice it. I know we're talking next, but I'm really trying to experimenting. Like a different style, genre. But because this, I think, is the thing about comics. Comics is experimental media. So you should try. Is the thing, but I don't know if I cut your question, please. Sorry.
No, I definitely because and I think it's hard to find your writing style because one day you are writing for DC and you are writing Batman or you're getting a Wonder Woman, and then the next day someone small like Image or Boom might be like, hey, well, I want you to write this story. It's not Batman, but it's a detective who's a giraffe, and you're like, all right, well, I gotta get into the mindset of that because I do kind of want to write for this, but this is different for me. And if you don't kind of challenge yourself to it, you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities to really see what you're capable of.
Yeah. I think I like to work with like briefings, like some a briefing project. It's cool for me. Like I want to, if an editor approached me, like I want you to write a spy story in Mars. It's cool. I like this concept and try to fit in this concept. Like with Hailstone was this thing because the original idea for Hailstone was like a story that Rafa Albuquerque and Mateo Santuloco, they are my partners in Stout Club, together with Eduardo Medeiros. And they had this story like 10, 15 years ago about a Frankenstein story in US gold rush, something like that. and they didn't want to use that anymore. So I just pinched that original context and the premise to work in Hailstone. I like this challenges. Like briefing, give me some clues to write something.
Exactly. And it's fun. I mean, it's obviously fun, and I think it tells in the writing. And I think for your writing, it does. You could tell when someone's not having fun writing something, as they're just putting something out there.
Yeah.
You definitely have to enjoy the story you're writing, because everyone will tell eventually.
Yeah.
Now, the biggest thing too with your books, which some people, didn't necessarily get. Some people were used to, again, here having to wait for the newsstand to get like the Marvel issue. Being that a lot of your books are Comixology, when you put a book out on Comixology, that book's available to 23 billion people the next day, which is insane.
Yeah.
How does that? Because I gotta imagine, like, sometimes some people only like maybe like 10,000 people are following you. Then they read like one Comixology, and you wake up and you got 50,000 friend requests, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah. It's not. It's
Not quite that big, but
yeah, because one thing, there's this aspect you mentioned, like when you put something digital, it's like wow, you can reach any corner. But things like with the big ones like DC, Marvel, and even Image now, and you have a, especially DC and Marvel, you have like a huge cover, and Comixology, we have coverage as well, but it's not the same. It's not the same reach, and at the same time, famous characters like Batman, Wonder Woman, Spider-Man, they are like a people magnet, like readers magnet. This is really hard to compete, especially with original stories. Like you never like slice it. There's no all the characters are new characters.
Correct. Yeah.
So this is hard to but yeah, it's the only way. I don't know. And now with social media, I don't know if you face it, but it's getting even hard to reach people.
Yes, it is.
You need to work even more with like producing some kind of content and posting, and wow, it's hard.
Correct.
Getting hard.
And it's crazy because it just takes that one story. I mean, which brings us to the whole reason we're here, and that one story is Sliced, which for everyone listening, it is an amazing book. I never thought that I would ever read about pizza shops in a mafia. I mean, it's one of those things that's like a background to like every mafia movie. You never really think anything of it. But this was very interesting, very engaging. How did this even come about?
It's that kind of a challenge I used to make for me, but it's something. I met a friend and here in my neighborhood, and he opened a pizzeria 2-3 years ago, and here is like a Napolitana pizzeria, and he's really good and he's doing great. And one night I was chatting with him, and he told me some really scary stories about like it's not a proper mafia, but how things like how his former partner stole some ideas, some receipts, and some things, and wow, it's hard stuff. And so that stuck in my mind. So I was trying, if I wrote a mafia story with pizza and family, but in a lighter because the idea was shifting from like a hard story, because my last story was Head Tag, and Head Tag was stories like with violence in Brazil, with flirting with the last dictatorship. So it was really, really hard stuff. So I tried to a different approach, and I told in a concept like if I wrote something like I could call like a soft mafia, like a soft mafia genre. And for me, it is like a just flowed, like and then I start to work in the concepts and the characters, and then I was researching some 3D printers, like food 3D printers. Quite a fight because I had this weird habit. If when I start to research something to write, I enter some habit roles.
Yeah.
I start to when I realize I'm like looking in the mechanisms of the thing that print the food. It's I lose the focus. But there are some ideas that I can bring from this crazy research. So that was the initial idea. So it came from a chat with Pizzaiolo.
Yeah, I mean, it translated well, and that I think that was one of the one things I did wonder when I read it, and I saw the preview for it, because I'm like, man, he's done like some really good, like hard stuff with violence and really good thriller. I'm like, I wonder how it's going to translate. I think what's really nice is you did tell a very lighthearted story and really did promote like a good, for the most part, a pretty good ending, where everyone is left satisfied with it. But you still have like 2 to 3 pages where you do get into that hardcore mafia,
Yeah.
little yelling, a little fighting, which was nice. I mean, like it was just a little bit of break to tell you, like,
Yeah.
even though this is pizza, they are going like this is a hostile takeover, which was really nice.
I personally love Mafia stories. I'm writing one Mafia story. It's almost ready, but that one is a hard one. It's violence. That's a hell. But I don't know when it come to light. But I love Mafia stories. So Slicer was the challenge to like a soft Mafia story. Yeah, I'm really glad you like it.
Yeah, well, it's perfect now too, because getting the do soft, I feel like it has to be nice for you to like you do a soft like this soft story, and now you go to a hard, like you know what the parameter is for like really soft, so now you know what the ceiling is for very hard. And you're very familiar with what that story is going to be, which must be nice.
Yeah.
Now with this book, was it nice with Sliced? I mean, everyone, I feel like a lot of writers, Colin Bunn, I've talked to about it as well, where you almost get, I wouldn't say a rut, but you just get so used to that it's almost just a nice break to really kind of branch out and kind of get that breather of like, let me just really look at this perspective. Did you find yourself at any part in this project just kind of like, man, it's my research is kind of light. I'm researching 3D pizza, almost like this is a little bit of a break for me in the story. Like I get to branch out.
I researched so much. There's something I research. I need to research like in a private browser, because it's hard stuff. Like, with Sliced, I think with the 3D and because there's a thing I wanted to, but I couldn't in Slice It. But I wanted to approach a lot with gentrification.
Okay, yeah.
But I couldn't because of the book and the way I followed. But I researched a lot of gentrification, and I really wanted to write something about it because it's a fascinating thing, especially if you research it with Mafia. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
So I think that was the deepest habit role I entered when researching Slice It. But there's a thing because it's a two-edged knife because it's good if you have research, but sometimes, as you said, you can just shift it from your goal and you lose. You need to come
you almost
back
lose sight of the project.
Yeah.
But I mean, you definitely hit. I mean, like I said, the story was definitely, like I said, I really have no qualms about it. What is crazy to me, and I don't know if you thought about this after writing it, is I feel like this story, if you decide to pick it up in another couple, like if you said, I'm going to take now kind of a 4-year break, I got some contracts that I'm going to do with, DC or Image or this independent, I'm going to do these as well, and now I'm going to come back. Is this a story or something you could see yourself picking back up or doing another sequel, or did you kind of intend for this to be a one and done?
Oh, for Sliced, I one and done, because this is the thing with the graphic novels, like especially with Comixology. Um, it's really hard to try to think on a sequel.
Yeah.
Because you don't have like a time to evaluate if people really enjoy it, and if you have, if it's worth to make a sequence, and at the same time, I'm quite tired of sequence. I'm really consuming a lot of stories with end now, because there are never ending and sequence and spin-offs, and it's cool, but you get tired, and especially if you're writing. So I can imagine a lot of respect, like Dan Slott, and people who like to spend like years and years working the same character. Wow, this is a lot of work. I don't know if I could make it. I don't know. I never tried. I never had the opportunity to try it, but I don't know if I like to explore, new stories, new. I'm in a phase of my life. I like things with start, middle, and end. Like a three acts
Exactly.
finishing. Okay, it's a good story. Isn't it a good story? Okay, I don't know.
No, and I think
sorry.
I think a lot of major publishers agree with you, because I mean, if you look at the trends for most of them, I mean, every comic book art we get now is books 1 through 10. Here's 5 spin-offs. Next season is another major event, books 1 through 10. We're never going to have another probably Chris Claremont run of 400 issues of X-Men all in continuity. I agree with you. I do not think I could write for Cyclops for 400 different occasions and find a new story for every time. That would be very difficult.
It's difficult. In fact, I'm working in a just to contradict me. I'm working in a new story for a book I read published, but it's not like a sequence.
Yeah.
It's in the same universe, but it's a different story. I can say much more, but so it's different. Like, it's not like a continuity. It's the same universe, the same logic, the same genre, but it's a different story with an end as well. So that's it.
Now, with that too, so obviously you want to see a project to completion. Would you be more inclined then if they said, like, oh, Slice did really well, and you're like, I don't really want to do a sequel, but they said, all right, well, when's if we want you to do another project, a prequel that was just one book, start, middle, end, and maybe we go back a little bit further in the story. That way, you're kind of still sequenced, but you do have some finality to it.
Yeah. It sounds more feasible, because the thing is, like, when you write something, it usually you finish it with the feeling that you could fit more things into that story. You usually left a lot of things behind, because it doesn't fit. You don't have the space, page number, whatever. So usually what you can explore. The hard thing is when an editor approaches you, like, stories like where you have a huge ending, you have a great ending, and there's nothing more to explore, but we want a number 2. So can't, like, I don't know, if you bring aliens to invade this story, maybe you can get something,
Yeah, sometimes you gotta know when enough is enough, and just kind of let a story
exactly.
Be with it. Now, especially with the writing, which was beautiful, the one thing that I was kind of surprised is the artwork is very reminiscent of old, like, 90s kids book, kind of very, like, almost like a matte color art, which really I think was the best choice for this book. I think if you were to do a more modern take with more hard colors, it would still be good, but it would get a little lost in what makes it special. How did you guys come about getting that art style dialed into the story?
Oh yeah, that was Guilherme Grandizoli. he's amazing. He
Yes.
works with animation. He does like he does like concepts for animation
You can
here in
tell.
Brazil, and is a lot of weird Pixar
Yeah.
style. And I met when I was writing Sliced, the pitch and the first drafts. I had an artist in mind, but when I met Guilherme, he's working on Instagram, and I found he's the guy, and it's perfect. I love his style, and Chris Peter made an awesome job with his color, her colors.
Oh yeah.
In great. I love that the palette, and I love the art. I think this I have a I I'm really luck guy because all my books I had the luck to work with amazing artists and colors and letters, so I
Yeah.
can complain. Can complain.
Yeah. No, definitely this book. I think what's really nice is not only the art was unique, which really lends itself to kind of setting the story apart. The
Yeah.
colors, as you mentioned, which I don't know if this was intentional. There was a lot of pizza colors, like in the story, like a lot of oranges and reds and yellows.
Yeah.
I don't
That
know
was
if that was
intentional.
intentional. Okay, because I was
Yeah,
like, this
yeah. The Wonder
intentional.
Pizza. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Wonder Pizza. They are like special.
Well, I always figured that they were blue and purple and cold and machine like, and then obviously when we go back to the other side, we get that warm orange to show the difference of manufactured versus homemade. Which it was a really nice touch. And then I was like, well, I could be wrong. I could be reading into this, but I have a feeling.
No, there is. Yeah. It was intentional. It was intentional. I'm glad you dig it. That's the idea.
Yes. Yeah. No. That was, like I said, that was a really good idea. Um, Now for the character design, and everything that you did, was it? I wouldn't say difficult, but kind of making this like family run and highlighting a lot of characteristics that got passed down from doing these two distinct families. Or was it more? Did you ever think of just like jumping right into these two pizza owners without almost? I wouldn't say not doing the backstory, but almost kind of really giving less backstory and just kind of jumping right into the story.
Um, do you mean if I thought about doing it in the book, or
Like no, like yeah, like in the actual story, like obviously we get the beginning with Rocco and like we kind of get
the
the
deal.
idea. And it gives us an idea of like the families and like this long
Yeah,
generation of the pizza places. At some point though, like obviously we expect now like a Pietro, like obviously the unibrow is like the family characteristic that gets passed down. Was there any
yeah.
point where you're like, I could do this, but I could still do the story and just make two random characters and have them not even know each other, but still get to the same story? Or was the family aspect of it very big for you in the story?
Yeah, I could. I think it's possible to make like as you
Yeah.
said, like with two random characters. But the thing is, like I try to make it like a more complicated possible, like families are. This is the
Yeah.
thing because Sophie doesn't have a mother.
Yeah.
Actually, she had, but it doesn't appear in the comic. I try to make it things like crush it. Because this is the way I think families
Yeah.
actually evolved. It's so dynamic. So this is the thing why I explore this background, their past, and because I think Mafia and I think the most important thing in Mafia is the promise.
Yeah.
It's like you must fulfill your promise.
Exactly.
So this is not I think, of course, violence is part of the mafia business,
Yeah.
but promise and what is still,
Yeah. Tradition.
yeah, this is the thing. So this is why I start in this way, just trying to set the tone. The story is about, because in that prologue you have all the elements of the history, of the story. You have the family, you
Yep.
have the deal, and you have the pizza at the end. So this is the way I try to set the tone. I don't know if it work, but yeah, this is.
I mean,
But
I definitely think so. I think everyone
oh,
that
thank
reads
you,
it
thank you. But
will think
this,
so.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Um, now, the one thing that is also interesting to know about this story, I wouldn't say that it's not that your other books are not meant for children or younger kids, but obviously reading
No, this
Hailstone
one is.
and Hit Girl and Roll 'Em,
Yeah,
you might have to be a
yeah,
little older to appreciate some of it. This is a story, though, I feel like if you were 9 or 10 and like you were looking for like a first graphic novel or comic book, this is like perfect for it. I don't know if that was again part of the intention as well. Like I really want to make, a book about a family for the family, like for everyone, or it just so happened like, oh, it was a good story and
yeah.
wow, everyone can read it.
Yeah. The idea was is to make it more light, and of course there's some bad words, but and the violence is mild, so I think
Correct.
it passed like for 10, 12 years old.
Yeah,
It's,
easily.
it's, a, it's a walk in the park. It's okay, especially
Definitely.
nowadays. So yeah,
Exactly. Um, now the biggest thing is this book is obviously coming out on Comixology if it's not already out. I did not see a release date. Is it already out on Comixology?
yeah, it is. It was released. I think was last week.
Okay, I'll
What
have to jump
I
into it.
think was last week,
Let's see,
or
around the
yeah, where
21st.
was 20. I think was 12.
I
12.
think
Yeah,
so.
last week. Yeah, I think it's
All right.
12. November 12. Yeah.
So we could read it now, obviously. Now, depending on the success of it, though, are you okay with it just being on Comixology, or would you like to see a physical print of it as well?
Oh, it will come out in print, I think.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. I don't know that. I don't know when, because it usually takes some months.
Yeah.
But it will come to print. I don't know the publisher, but I don't think it would be Dark Horse. I think maybe it would be a Blaze.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, will be because Comixology was like dealing, like changing his printing books, but I think it's a Blaze, but I don't know the date yet. But it come because I'm really eager to read it, because this is the thing I love. I'm work a lot of digital comics, but I have this thing with the print, the
Yes.
paper and the page. I'm an old guy, so I'm like to flip it,
Yes.
this yeah
As I
I
tell
went.
everyone, there's nothing better than the feel of a new book, but more
Yeah.
importantly, and I could be the only one, is the smell of a new book.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
there's something to it. No matter what you tell me, even a comic book, there's that new smell and flipping through it and like the waxiness of the pages. There's
Yeah.
a feeling that you can't replicate. It's just not the same reading it from like a Kindle.
Yeah. No, it's. I use a lot of Kindle, but for me, it's good to read, especially not I don't like to read like comics in Kindle,
Yeah.
but books is a great deal, because it's so fast to read. So I read a lot of books in Kindle, but comics, I like the whole, like the
Exactly.
package and the cover and the everything. So it's
Exactly. No, I think you're not alone in that. I think a lot of us can agree.
yeah.
Digital to catch up on what my wallet can't afford, but physical for the ones that I must
Yeah.
have with the beautiful
Exactly.
covers. Definitely.
Exactly.
All right. Well, before we get the information about where people can find you and stay in touch, obviously, as we said, Sliced out now on Comixology. What can people be expecting from you after reading this if they want to keep up to you? What can they be expecting in the future to look forward to? Obviously, of what you can share.
Okay. So, well, I'm working some new books.
Okay.
I have a book. I book. I was working for. I've been working for like 2 years. Is a literary adaptation from a huge Brazilian book, and it come out in Brazil next year. And I think will come out in US next year as well.
Okay. Cool.
Um,
Awesome.
but I can say much more.
Yes.
And I'm also writing a sequence. It's not a sequence as you said, but
Yeah.
like in the same universe. universe of a book I've already wrote. So, and I'm working a lot of. I have some small stories, like
Okay.
short stories that come out in the next year as well, and that's it. That's it that I can say. But
Yeah.
now it's please read Slice It, people.
Definitely
I
read
hope you
Slice.
all enjoy it.
Oh, I think everyone listening will. Like I said, it's a fun story. It's amazing art. You guys did a lot of great work for it. It sounds like we got a lot of books to look forward to from you in the future as well. Everyone go out to Comixology, read Slice. It's very easy. Just you can just type it in the Google. It's very impressive too, because some Comixology books kind of get almost kind of buried, kind of in the
Yeah,
search. Sliced,
yeah.
however, you put Sliced right away or your name and Sliced. It's
Oh,
very
awesome.
impressive on Google. That thing just jumps up immediately. It's very easy to find. So I'm
This
very
music to
happy.
my ears.
Yes.
Music to my ears. Good.
So we definitely will spread the word for everyone that wants to keep in touch with you or see what you're working on or see what your latest happenings. Do you have a website or social media that you
Oh,
prefer?
yeah, I have a website, but I'm just with a waiting page now because I need to update that.
Okay.
So it's rafaelscavon.com. But I usually I'm Twitter and Instagram and Blue Sky,
Yep.
and that's it. I'm quite slow in social networks because it as I said before, it take me a lot of time, even more time. But I try to keep up update, and so I'm posting now more recently because of Slice. But that's it. I'm online and
Perfect.
uh,
Well,
yeah.
we'll have this done. We'll have this recorded. Everyone that's listening to this or you are watching this on YouTube, just go ahead, go to our Instagram or follow the links to the video or the post that you're seeing. We will have this linked up. Just click on the link, follow it, read Slice, give it 5 stars. You're going to love the story. Rafael, thank you for coming on. Like I said, you
Thank you.
are one of my favorite writers. You have done an
Oh,
amazing
thank you.
job. So many books. We look forward to seeing what you have coming out and have you back on the show sometime later.
Oh, thank you again for having me. It was a
Yes,
great chat. Well,
no
enjoy. Have a
problem.
great time.
Everyone else listening, we hope you enjoyed. Give us a follow, give Rafael a follow, and have a good night.
Bye bye. Good night.